Is Ukraine trying to provoke Russia into invading a NATO member in order to spark a wider war? A provocative allegation that, if true, would carry grave implications for European security and alliance commitments. Are Ukrainian authorities planning attacks against Russia from NATO territory amid recent moves by Moscow? A claim advanced by Russian sources that, if accurate, would risk drawing Allied soil into active conflict. Kyiv is said to be plotting operations at the same time Russia is preparing new laws that Moscow says would permit responses against foreign actors. A Russian report alleges that Ukraine is plotting to use Latvia as a launchpad for strikes against Russia, a charge that, if accurate, would represent a serious escalation in the geographic scope of Kyiv's operations. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, made the revelation on May 18, according to Sputnik, the Kremlin-linked outlet that published Moscow's account of the alleged plan. Russian spies claim President Zelensky is trying to prove to the West that Ukraine can still fight, portraying Kyiv's purported moves as aimed at maintaining or increasing Allied support through demonstrable action. Moscow asserted that Ukraine convinced Latvia to allow operations against Russia from its soil, an accusation that raises sensitive diplomatic and security questions for a NATO member state. According to the Russian intelligence narrative, Kyiv has already deployed drone units to Latvia for use in attacks, a specific operational claim meant to show the readiness of forces positioned beyond Ukraine's borders. Russia said it had identified locations it described as Ukrainian decision-making centers in Latvia, presenting that claim as evidence of an expanded command and control footprint operating inside Allied territory. Russian officials warned that Latvia's NATO membership would not protect any alleged accomplices from retribution, a pointed threat delivered in the context of rising bilateral tensions. The Russian claims came days after Moscow's parliament advanced new legislation on foreign invasion response, a sequence that Russian authorities used to frame their allegations as part of a broader security narrative. Russian lawmakers reportedly passed a bill on May 13 that could expand the legal framework for authorizing foreign military interventions under the stated purpose of protecting Russian citizens abroad. Russia's lower house of parliament reportedly cleared the bill, which has been described in some reports as potentially justifying future cross-border military actions under new legal grounds. According to the Kyiv Independent, the bill would allow the Russian president to send troops abroad under the justification of protecting Russians in foreign countries. The legislation reportedly states that troops could be deployed to defend Russian citizens from arrest, detention, trial, or what Moscow describes as political persecution in other states. The Kyiv Independent also reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin has up to 14 days to sign the bill into law once it is formally submitted for final approval. The head of the State Duma's Defense Committee said the move was intended to counter what Moscow has described as rising and widespread Russophobia abroad in recent years. As per Kyiv Independent, the chief of Russian State Duma said, and I quote, "Western justice has turned into a repressive machine for dealing with those who disagree with the decisions imposed by European officials. In these circumstances, it is important to do everything to ensure that our citizens abroad are protected." The newly passed law has added fresh momentum to Western warnings that Russia's neighboring countries could face an expanded security threat if the policy is used to justify future interventions. However, Moscow has repeatedly and firmly denied any intention of starting a war with NATO member states, insisting that its actions remain strictly defensive and region-specific. Interestingly, Russian President Vladimir Putin, in remarks made on May 9, hinted that the ongoing war in Ukraine may be approaching its final phase or eventual conclusion, adding further ambiguity to the broader geopolitical situation.